What's going on, everybody? How you guys doing? This is Brad, and unfortunately, I've been real busy lately. But we're here, gonna talk about the Nintendo Direct that happened a few days ago, and I didn't get to do a live reaction. I did watch it though that day. I just didn't have a chance to. Just was not able to do anything like that. Plus, reactions don't tend to do well for the channel. But anyway, uh, I'm going to go over the things I saw in the direct that I enjoyed. Maybe just skim over some of the other stuff. But I say let's jump right into things and talk about the big surprise. Even though it's kind of been rumored for a while, you can see really two nice little things there from the video, from the image I used here that I quickly threw together. Thank you. Uh, but yeah, Pikmin 4 finally. Like, it feels like that game's been rumored to be happening for years. Like, I think, like, even to the point that it kind of became a joke, a running gag a little bit, that Pikmin 4 was on the way. But I don't know. Honestly, don't know. I can't remember when Pikmin 3 originally came out. That was a Wii U game. And it's been several years since that. And I think Pikmin 3 may have been an early release for the Wii U too. So, it may have been several years. But anyway, uh, I enjoy the Pikmin games. Uh, the first Pikmin game I played on this channel. It's fun. Love that one. Pikmin 2 I've played. I don't remember liking it that much because it felt less like like a survival game and more like you just go back to the planet, collect crap because you owe your boss money or something like that. But Pikmin 3 was again a survival game, and you had a bunch more uh, people to play with. You had three different pairs. You had Alf and Brittany and what was his name? Charlie, that you could swap between, and the new flying and rock Pikmin. I almost said Pokemon. Uh, but yeah, I really enjoyed Pikmin 3. That was very good. I've got the Switch version. I just haven't started yet. Been debating if I should try to play Pikmin 2 first because it's chronological order, or if I should just go ahead and skip to Pikmin 3 because I just like that one better. Might just go ahead and just skip to 3. But anyway, that was a nice little surprise. And, always nice to see Miyamoto show up for a direct. He always makes them feel a little bit more special. And, he briefly plugged the Mario movie and Super Nintendo World coming to California and all. I'm glad he didn't spend a lot of time talking about the movie or Nintendo World, to be honest. Those are not really anything major, no major news there for those. So I'm glad he just kind of dropped, and like mentioned that they're coming and then dove right into Pikmin. It was kind of cruel, though. He drug that announcement out. He went into talking about Pikmin Bloom, and mobile game, which I have not played and don't really care to. But, like, I posted this on Twitter. I said, I wish I had, like, 1% of the positivity that, like, Miyamoto seems to have. Just, it's like he's just made of happiness. He always seems so happy to be wherever he is and promote whatever he's doing. I think it's funny in a way, that he's like this. Everybody was saying he's such a big champion of Pikmin. He loves Pikmin. He wants it to be, this massive success. And I'm glad that he's willing to show up and promote this game that he believes in. So, glad to see Miyamoto. Anyway, of course, the other huge reveal here. Finally, a name for Breath of the Wild 2. Gonna have to get used to not calling it Breath of the Wild 2. The Legend of Zelda: Kingdom of Tears, or Tears of the Kingdom. How did I screw that up? Looks very good. From what I could tell, it looks actually like they took the style of the original game and just improved it. Now, what we got was some gameplay stuff, I think. It was just like gameplay stuff, and a little bit of cinema stuff. But it was all new. And this game is giving me major Skyward Sword vibes, and I think that's going to be intentional because I've got a feeling that they're going to try to make this game heavily tied back to Skyward Sword because remember, Breath of the Wild was supposed to be the latest story in the Zelda timeline. Skyward Sword is the very beginning. Skyward Sword is where the cycle of reincarnation between Zelda, Link, and Ganondorf begins because Zelda is a reborn. Zelda is a reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. And Demise, of course, is the original embodiment of all evil. And remember, the Master Sword is actually created in that game. It was originally the goddess sword, but it evolved and became a much more powerful weapon. So that was the origin of The Legend of Zelda in terms of lore. Now, I've said before, one of my theories on what the story is going to be this time around is the explanation as to why Ganon was destroyed in Breath of the Wild, or he was presumed destroyed, but it turns out his actual real body is still very much intact. And I brought this up from, unless I'm mistaken, Breath of the Wild is the first time they've ever acknowledged in a game that Ganon reincarnates and comes back time and time again. And so, there's actually two different instances in which Ganon is reborn in the story of Breath of the Wild. 100 years before Breath of the Wild takes place is when Ganon returned and took over Hyrule Castle, killed the champions, almost pretty much killed Link, and then Zelda froze herself or sealed herself within the castle to keep Ganon at bay. But then there's also the tale of the 10,000 years before Breath of the Wild, or before the Great Calamity, where Ganon had returned and the people of Hyrule used the sacred beasts and the guardians to destroy him. Then he was gone for 10,000 years. So, or sealed away, I think is what they may have been the term they used. My theory before, what I said, is that they're going to try to defeat Ganon for good and end his reincarnation cycle by locking him in a state between life and death. Because if he dies, he'll just come back. He'll reincarnate in the future in just another, monster's form. If he's still alive, then it means he's not dead, so he can't reincarnate. So what do? You put him in a state between life and death where he's rendered harmless, I guess, or as harmless as possible. Or what they think is harmless. So that's what I think happened. I think in the 10,000 years before before the Great Calamity, Ganon was sealed. They found a way to reduce his body to that of just like a mummified corpse without fully killing him. He's basically like perpetually frozen in time, which will probably be the explanation of something like somehow. And that was how they planned to be done with Ganon forever. And then they buried his body beneath the castle where only the royal family would probably even have access to it. Or if anybody wanted to get to Ganon and potentially unseal him, they'd have to go through the castle, which is crawling with guards. So I think that's the story. I think that's going to be the story. And I think it would make a lot of sense if that is the story, that they're going to explore the reincarnation cycle, that the game to do it in would be heavily influenced by the first game in the timeline where all of this started. And perhaps maybe we'll even see Demise or something like that in form, or we'll hear about that. How Ganon is the reincarnation, or Ganon is the incarnation of an evil demon god or whatever, or an evil devil who tried to take over the world and cover the world in darkness, and he is forever chasing the reincarnation of the goddess Hylia. So, I don't know. I think that's an interesting story thing. Now, the other thing, which is not... I debated adding something to this image to talk about it, but I don't think that's necessary. I'm excited for Pikmin 4, excited for this new Breath of the Wild game. And so, yeah, they called it Breath of the Wild there instead of Tears of the Kingdom. That title seems very sad. So I don't know if Hyrule is going to be destroyed. And one more thing before we move on to that is, if you notice all the sky stuff, which is why I said it would be heavily influenced by that. I think that... I had to close something. Anyway, I think that maybe we'll be exploring the idea that maybe Hyrule returns to the sky. The people, the Hylians originally came from the sky, where they lived up in the air with the sky, whatever those big birds were. And maybe the idea of this game is to return the people back to where they came from. I mean, back closer to, I guess, the goddesses? I don't know. I do hope they at least mention the I feel like the Triforce will have to come into play here. I mean, maybe Ganon gets the Triforce and wishes for things to Hyrule to be restored to its former glory in some way. I don't know. But Breath of the Wild had no mention of the Triforce whatsoever that I can remember. And you didn't have to collect any of the pieces of Triforce. It wasn't a storyline bit. I mean, if anything, Breath of the Wild to me felt like the final battle was actually, like, you were supposed to believe this is actually Ganon. It's going to turn out that Calamity Ganon was just basically a grander version of Shadow Ganon. You know, there's always a fake Ganon that you have to fight before you fight the real one, like in Ocarina of Time at the Forest Temple. And then there's the one in Wind Waker. There's not one in Twilight Princess that I can think of. At least I don't remember. But Wind Waker had a Shadow Ganon fight that was basically very similar to the Ganondorf battle in Ocarina of Time. But anyway, yeah, I think that's what we're going to find out. The Ganon we defeated in Breath of the Wild was not the true Ganon. Okay, anyway, moving on. The N64 stuff. I can't remember every game that they announced for that. But the big ones that I'm excited about, there's some debate about what could happen with those. But anyway, very excited that not only did they announce Mario Party, but they announced all three of them. All three of the N64 Mario Parties, 1, 2, and 3, will be added to the Nintendo Switch Online catalog. And that's really cool. Because I think for the longest time now, you've only ever been able to actually just buy Mario Party 2. Like on the Wii, I think on the Wii Shop and the Wii U Shop, maybe just the Wii U Shop. But only Mario Party 2 was available. So that's a weird thing. I don't know what the decision was, what was the logic behind that. But I'm glad that in this case, you'll be able to play all of them. And then the big surprise for me personally, I know everybody was excited for GoldenEye. I never played GoldenEye, but, you know, excited for those of you who were excited for GoldenEye. But Pokemon Stadium and Pokemon Stadium 2 both coming. But if you paid attention to the trailer, at the bottom of the screen when those two games are being shown, it says Pokemon cannot be transferred to these games. Now that's I understand it. It is kind of disappointing because transferring your Pokemon to Stadium and Stadium 2 was a big feature. Enough so that those games have modes and locations on the in the game that you can go play your Game Boy games. I mean, I can't remember what Pokemon Stadium 2's was called. It may have been called Game Boy Tower again, but it was called Game Boy Tower in the first Pokemon Stadium. And that whole purpose of that was to play your games, your Game Boy games on your TV through Pokemon Stadium. So if you had a Game Boy and you were running through Pokemon Yellow and you got stuck at Pewter City, then but you didn't, maybe you're out of AA batteries. Well, you can just pop in your transfer pack into your N64 controller, boot up Stadium, go to Game Boy Tower, and continue your game. And I think if you, depending on what parts of the other parts of the game you've beaten, you can unlock an increased speed mode. There's 2 sets. You can double the speed of the game and then triple the speed of the game. So if you're looking to play through those games really fast, that helps. It sounds kind of funny when you do it, but that was a nice little feature to have. Not to mention the fact you can make basically little trainer passes of your Pokemon in your Game Boy cartridges, save them to Pokemon Stadium's data, and then even if you take the pack out later, as long as your team is registered, you can still use that team later. So that was a fun little feature, and it makes the game easier. Not gonna lie, because otherwise you got to rely just on the rental Pokemon, and that'll make the game more challenging, which will be fun to play through YouTube. It'll be fun to just use rental Pokemon for those battles. But what I'm hoping is, because they are adding these games, and it will be a few months before the Stadium games make it to the thing. It's looked to me like they're the first game they showed off was 1080 snowboarding or something like that. And then the 3 Mario parties, and then Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2. I don't know if that's the release date for them, but it looked like the snowboard game and Mario Party 1 and 2 will release this year, and then 3 will release next year, followed by the rest of them. So I think it is going to go in order. Because what? September, this is halfway into September. We got 3 more months left of the year and 3 N64 games there. I can't remember when they said GoldenEye was coming. It said coming soon, so maybe that will be September's drop. I don't even remember if they added a game yet this month to the 64 catalog. But anyway, hopefully by maybe next year, when they add these games, or beyond that, then they'll introduce a Game Boy catalog for Nintendo Switch Online, and it will be able to send data to your Stadium files if you have your Game Boy stuff saved on that same profile. Because I think all that should, I don't know how it works. I don't know the technical side of it, but I would figure that all that data is in a similar place and could possibly be coded to read. But I don't know. I hope they'll do that. I hope that they'll give us Game Boy games on Nintendo Switch Online. Not just for the Pokemon. There are some other Game Boy games I think would be fun. Like, just put Mario Land up there. But yeah, hoping that Pokemon Stadium and Stadium 2 being on this service means that potentially there'll be a Game Boy catalog coming. Probably not until after the Wii U shop closes and or specifically the 3DS shop. Once that shop is done and people can't use their 3DS to get those games anymore, then I think they'll do that. Because the 3DS was a big console for them. I love the 3DS. So they're probably going to want to get as many people spending money on that 3DS as possible. And so maybe once Stadium and Stadium 2 launched, you won't have that connectivity. But afterwards, maybe in the summer for the next E3, if they don't skip it, or some Pokemon Presents thing, they could reveal it there. Although, I don't know, revealing a whole Switch feature like that at a Pokemon Presents seems like that wouldn't be really appropriate. They'd probably do it during the E3 Direct. So, I don't know. I'm still excited for the Stadium games to be up there anyway. So those were really the big things that were really exciting to me personally. And then, everybody's joking about the farming simulator, life simulator stuff that's in there, all these different anime games, or not even anime games for some of them. But there were half a dozen games that the entire description of the game was farm the land, find a spouse, and protect your new home from demons or monsters. Like, nothing against those games. I think some of them seem pretty interesting. It's just weird to put that many games with that many similar features in one direct like that. If you guys remember, those of you who remember me talking about during the Summer Games Fest, I think I was trying to watch that specific, the Summer Games Fest official stream or the Xbox presentation, whichever one it was, and I was recording my live reaction. But I noticed that like the first 4 or 5 games they showed, and they showed a lot of footage for those games, so it just went on and on. But they were all 4 zombie shooter games. And I'm just sitting there going like, ugh, another one? Another zombie shooter game? With hyper-realistic graphics? Ooh. And I turned it off. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, the games may not suck, and there may not be anything wrong with the games themselves, but I don't really want to sit here and just, do a live reaction to 4 or 5 games in a row that are exactly the same thing, and that I have reason to believe that there would be more of that coming. So I was just like, you know what? I'm out. I mean, luckily Nintendo did break it up some. But yeah, like, there were some other fun little games thrown in there. Some kind of like dodgeball game. I can't remember the name of. I don't have it pulled up in front of me. They talked a little bit about the new Mario and Rabbids game, which they revealed much more of that at the Ubisoft show a few days ago, about Rayman coming in and being an actual focus of the 3rd DLC. So, wow. What else? A Kirby remake. Sort of was the false finish there. The fake out finish. They did a little montage of games coming, and then they cut real quick to the full Kirby trailer. I said, is this going to be what they end with? And it seemed like it was at first, because the guy, the presenter there, what's his name? I don't want to even guess. He bowed, and it looked like he was fixing to say, that's all we got for you today. But he said, we got one more thing to show you. So, yeah. But, yeah. So that's what I'm excited for. Primarily Pikmin 4, Tears of the Kingdom, and the N64 catalog growing even bigger. There's still a lot of games that we haven't seen yet. I'm not sure if I should be surprised that they haven't added the original Smash Brothers to that. I feel like that one's got to happen. I just don't know if maybe they're planning to save that towards the end, so that they can, that'll get one big last push out of that. That can be the last one they add, maybe. Because there's not a whole lot of N64 games you could add. There's still several. I mean, at least without them having to, reach out to third parties and say, hey, remember this game from like 25 years ago? Can we put it on our service now? And hope for the best. But yeah, that's my thoughts on the Nintendo Direct. Sorry it's a little late, but what can you do? What did you guys like about the Direct? Anything you guys wanted to see? Oh, speaking of which, before I sign off and get out of here, the big rumor was that there was going to be a reveal of a Metroid Prime trilogy coming to the Switch, and the HD Wind Waker and Twilight Princess Zelda games too. And just like I said about Pokemon and the 3DS, you're probably not going to see those HD Zelda games until after the Wii U shop closes, because I think those 2 games are your reason to hold on to a Wii U right now. They're not going to drop that until after the Wii U shop's gone and you can't get those games anymore. But if they do, every major Zelda game will be available to play on the Switch. Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask through NSO. Then Wind Waker would be an HD port. Twilight Princess would be an HD port. Skyward Sword is already on the Switch. And then you have both Breath of the Wild games. Not to mention the SNES and the NES Zelda games. And then again, Link's Awakening, I kind of don't know if I should consider that like true Zelda game, at least not in the like the since the Ocarina of Time and Breath of the Wild are, but these big, you know, bigger open world store, not open world, but you know what I'm trying to say, I think. Uh, but if they add the Game Boy games, there are several Zelda Game Boy games. There's that split version, Ocarina of Time, what was it, Oracle of Ages and Oracle of Seasons. That would be fun to play on the Switch. But yeah, that's all I got for you. Hope you enjoyed listening to me talk. Let me know what you guys wanted to see from this direct, or what you're hoping to see from a future direct, or what you're excited about that they revealed in the direct. And that's all I got for you now. And I keep extending this ending because I'm not sure what exactly how to end it. But anyway, we'll see you later for the next direct. Maybe I'll live react to it. Maybe I won't. We'll find out then. See ya.